got some kind of audience. And if you are indeed a subscriber, just do that. If you are indeed a subscriber to the YouTube channel, that means that you've gotten a notification and we are going live. Thank you very much indeed if you are. Much appreciated, as always. All your support. Indeed, for everybody who's on the screen at the moment, we've got the Patreon supporters rolling by. Thank you so much indeed. You have been definitely keeping the lights on over the course of the last month and a half, seeing as I have not been earning a damn thing. So it's been good that we've been able to keep doing this. And if anything, to go that twice a week, because it's allowed me to, I don't know, keep some kind of track of time. Because as certain for all of us, all the days are drifting into one at this point. If you would like to, please hit that notifications, hit subscribe, and yeah, do join us each and every Wednesday and Thursday. A couple of updates. Yes, I know that we had that slight snafu with Bill Sienkiewicz, which was supposed to happen on Wednesday. That was entirely down to Bill. He's put his hands up and he's completely admitted it. He basically was on a interview at 7:30 in the morning. He then did a industry kind of catch up, trying to find out about some work that he had got scheduled with all his contracts. At which point he then all these plates that were spinning, and of course a plate had to fall, and that would be me. And I totally understand that. I know my pecking order in this. I know what's going on. But Bill will reschedule. He is going to come back into the thing, but we're going to kind of get that all sorted out at his convenience. At his convenience. So that's coming up. What else have we got? We've got a whole bunch of stuff happening. Don't forget, we have those amazing guests that we've got coming up, including the addition to our lineup for one of the Wednesday shows coming up. We were just going to be having Russ Burlingame from comicbook.com joining us on Wednesday, 27th of May. But as it happens, we're also going to be joined by another commentator. And really looking forward to having some more guests on that particular show. And of course, this Wednesday, we are going to be talking to Donny Cates and Megan Hutchinson as well. Some great guests on the way. So stick with us. We have got ourselves a cracking lineup coming up. But there we go. We've got a whole bunch of people jumping into the chat already. Thank you so much indeed, everybody. It's a pleasure to have you along. Into the Blue Mister. Afternoon, folks. Andrew English, hello from London. Michael P's watching. Good morning from Colorado Spring. Leanne D, hello, you lovely people. I miss you all. We miss you too as well. Andrew Dickinson, evening. I'm guessing he's on the side already. Excellent stuff. Listen, thank you very much indeed for joining us for this. Welcome to Talkin Con, a cup of tea with an Englishman in San Diego. My name is Leonard Sultana, and I have my cup of tea. I usually would have either a massive mug of tea, or I would have my branded Our Cup of Tea mug. But for this, we're going old school, and we are indeed celebrating San Diego Comic-Con in all of its endeavors. We've got a whole bunch of stuff we're going to get into today, and we've got ourselves some great guests to talk to about it. So I'm just going to throw pretty much everybody into the mix and just kind of welcome everyone along. We've got ourselves, look at this, motley crew. Good grief. It's great to see everybody's faces again. We have ourselves Rob Sarkowitz, who's joining us. We've got Aaron Nabus, we've got Tony B. Kim, and we've got Alyssa Franks as well. For everybody who, oh, you see, okay.
Hey, we need to be safe here when we're doing this.
Mine is around. I do have the mask to hand because, as I was explaining to Rob, where was that going? Was that going over your glasses?
Yeah. Well, is this how you wear it? I've been trying to find some articles on how to wear your mask, and no one's posting anything about it.
There you go. The thing is, we want to see the lovely Alyssa, but we get the idea. That's a hell of a mask.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Nope, not today.
Fair enough. No, as I was explaining to Rob before we came on, I haven't been outside of the house for 4.5 weeks now because we've been self-isolating with somebody who was tested positive, and they're only just starting to come out of symptoms. So yeah, I'm looking forward to what's it like outside? Do they still dance? Do they still do food
Honestly,
time?
it's like the beginning of Avengers Endgame, you know, where it's just empty
Very
stadiums and
Very much that.
Oh man. Well, tell you what. Well, let's go around.
The roads are amazing.
Yeah.
Just driving is phenomenal.
you know it's very surreal right now because in LA County they just imposed the face mask law, and stay at home is indefinite, like they're not putting a date on it. And then like down the street, Newport beach is all open. You go down there and hardly anyone's wearing a mask, and it's all flooded with people going to the beach. Couldn't tell that a pandemic is actually happening. So it's very bizarre right now.
My word. It seems very on both sides of the Atlantic. It seems like there is this kind of the coming out of the chrysalis kind of vibe, that there's this attempt to return to some kind of normality, but then there's also that apprehension, just to hope that things are some kind of normality at the other side of this. And we're going to get into a whole bunch of stuff, certainly when it comes to not just San Diego Comic-Con, but also just the way it impacts so many aspects of our lives. So we're going to get into that. Let's have a look at a couple of comments before we do dive in. This 77 comic, is this a bank robbery convention?
Always.
Always. Solicitor Smeg, Alyssa's going to rob a bank in the Wild West. And indeed, Tony looked like a member of Daft Punk with that mask over his eyes. So
I'll take that.
Next time I'll try to remember to bring my my ex-president's mask. You know.
My word. Okay, so let's go around the table. Oh, go around the I guess. Introduce yourself and basically explain where you are, how the pandemic's kind of been treating you, and who you are. We'll start with Rob. Yes, go on then. Give us the pocket introduction, sir.
So I'm Rob Salkowitz. I'm a writer and sayer of things about comics, mostly on Forbes, ICV2, Publishers Weekly, things like that. I wrote a book about Comic-Con, and now I'm the guy who wrote a book about Comic-Con. I'm up in Seattle, where we saw this, I guess, first in the US. And I dare say the worst of it may be over in our little corner of the world, because we have sane people running our state and city. So it's weirdly quiet, but I work out of home anyway, so it doesn't make that, it's not like a huge thing. But I do miss being, the Emerald City Comic Con was one of the first casualties of the con season this year, and so I sort of felt the loss of that very strongly at first.
Well, that was going to be a question I was going to ask all of you as well. What was the last con you actually went to? Well,
I actually saw Aaron and Alyssa at what is going to be the largest comic convention held in San Diego this year.
Yeah, if Matt Dunford doesn't have that on his business cards by the end of the year, he's missing a trick.
Yeah.
We couldn't get Matt for the show today, too?
No, I'm afraid not. We could have gotten just
too busy playing Animal Crossing.
True,
you know what?
true.
I don't doubt that at all. Before we move on to everyone else, just to bring that up as well, we did invite CCI representatives across the board, because I've got a couple of friends in the organization. Asked them directly. All of them turned around and said, no, you have to go through the press office, which is completely understandable. The press office has been completely dead silent. There's, as far as I'm aware, only one official announcement that has come out of CCI, and we'll get into that because at the end of the day, the only voice that you hear is either David Glanzer. That's it. I just
got a note from him on Friday relative to some stuff I was asking about a piece I'm writing. So that's
excellent. Well, looking forward to reading that, because the one I'm talking about is the comicbook.com reference, where I think they fired off an email and got some things back, but we'll dive into those. Aaron, who are you? And where are you and what have you been up to?
Hi, everybody. My name is Aaron Nabus, and I am in San Diego, California, with Alyssa. Although I haven't seen Alyssa since San Diego Comic Fest. But yeah, I'm the host of the Holly Show podcast, along with my buddy Alex Benedicto, and we go around interviewing independent pop culture and comic book creators, and that's something that I really miss, the face-to-face interaction. You know, interviewing on Skype isn't the same, that's for sure.
Is it something that you have been maintaining? Is it been something you've been carrying on doing?
It's funny because I got like many of like a lot of people, I got laid off recently, so you'd think I'd have more time, but ironically, the company that laid me off, I have a good working relationship with them, and I'm doing some contract work with them, so I've been really busy lately. Yeah, but I did record a bunch of episodes prior to the pandemic, so I'm still working on the production of those, and I'll be rolling those up soon.
Excellent. I mean, it's certainly the reason why I wanted to ask that is because the second that the lockdown happened, I moved this to twice weekly, which I'm certain Alyssa will be just like, hang on a second, the effort it took for her to pull me into weekly broadcast. It was like pulling teeth. I wasn't too sure if we were going to have any content, but it was more a case of I wanted to do it more like a group hug, kind of as a community thing, just while we weren't going to conventions, to have this regular.
Yeah, and I really appreciate you taking that on, because I listen to it when I can, and it's been a welcome. It's been awesome just hearing your voice and seeing the guests that you brought on. So kudos to you.
Thank you.
Your guests.
It's been impressive with guests that we've had.
Yeah.
Just being able, because I think either people have just been desperate to talk to other people. But it's been great to have them on. But no, that's the reason I asked, because the content you put out on Whole Hate Show is kind of reliant on that face-to-face. That is something that you pride on. It's the chatting.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, that's totally true. Although I definitely enjoy the face-to-face interaction, because it's like seeing Rob here. I remember our conversation at San Diego Comic Con. That was one of my highlights of my con experience. Just speaking to him and having that moment in time there, and it's just so different when you talk to people via Skype or Zoom. It's just not the same. You can't hang out for coffee afterwards or get something to eat afterwards. So it's definitely a different experience for me when it comes to interviewing these creatives online versus in person.
Absolutely. Alyssa, it's a pleasure to have you back. Thank you so much indeed for coming on.
You're welcome.
I mean, as the creator of the Friends of Comic Con forum, you still have such a place in a lot of convention attendees' hearts as that kind of curator of that reference point. But I know that your attention has shifted, because I know that you went back to school. But you went to school as a San Diego native, and that's a very big reason why I wanted to have you on, because as somebody who is seeing how the convention affects the city and how the city's dealing with the pandemic at the moment, just explain to people who you are and what you're currently up to.
Sure. About 10 years ago, I started the Friends of Comic Con forum, which mutated into additionally the blog. We've been doing a lot of pop culture shows, pop culture articles about what's going on. My biggest one at this point is Snowpiercer tonight, which I had to get the Week in TV article reference up, because longtime listeners of this podcast will know that was a big thing that I used to do. Currently, what I'm doing is maintaining the site. We've had a new technical person brought on, and just keeping the lights on, keeping the community going, providing an outlet for people to express themselves, for people who, with people who actually get the pop culture need that we all have. And I'm happy to say that through a lot of people have been staying with the forum and continuing, and the website too. Personally, this is my new baby. Let's see if I can get this.
Nice.
Yeah, I just picked this up yesterday.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, that's what's been taking me. The roads have been absolutely amazing. I was in an accident 2 weeks ago and totaled my other bike. I just got a broken rib and
Okay.
backed up a bit.
Just the broken rib.
Yeah, it was a lower one, so it wasn't that big of a deal.
Yeah, you have other ones. You could spare them.
Yeah, exactly. That, and this is my other, that's my other passion these days. And my lizard who's looking at me like I'm a crazy guy.
I
'cause
was
it's
about to ask, is
overcast.
somebody getting jealous
Well,
of the attention?
he's like, oh, I think all of the pets are. I mean, I unanimously, can anybody say that their pets are not sick of them? Giving them love.
I have a cat. I disagree with that statement. All cats are just like, nah, well, you do what you do. As long as you feed me, I don't care. But that's a cat for you. Oh, but it's great to have you. So, like, really, it's great to have you still involved in the site. I know that you say you're more on the technical side. Have you been kind of keeping an eye on some of the chatter, or what's the traffic been like? Has it kind of faded away?
During the time period when we were not sure what was going to happen, it was fairly busy. Things have kind of settled in, and a lot of people are. The sense that I'm getting is that a lot of people are resigned, just trying to figure out what the new normal is going to be coming up for the next 6 months. And people are just readjusting. Personally, I'm an introvert, so I'm okay with not talking to anybody for days. I've been actually finding that too many people are reaching out to me. And
Sorry.
Yeah, no. It's just, between my family and the accident, it's, and everybody's all like,
Well,
I just would be
we'll
happy working on my computer.
I'll tell you what. We'll wish you all the best, and we'll move on. Fair enough. It's a pleasure to have you on the show. It's a pleasure to have you back. And Tony B. Kim, hello there, sir.
Hey,
probably the precursor to all of us when it comes to our own part of the community. Certainly, one of the first faces I got in. I was following for Crazy for Comic Con as that first timer back in the day. It's a pleasure to have you joining us. Certainly, the reason why I wanted to have you on is as a virtual vendor, as something that you've been doing over the last month or so. We're going to get into that, but first things first. Who are you, and where are you, and what have you been up to?
So Tony Kim, and I guess I'm rounding out the West Coast crew here in Orange County. So Orange County, so about an hour and a half away from San Diego. So a lot of you guys know me from Crazy for Comic Con, and then past, this is the beginning of 4th year. Started Hero Within, our geek apparel company, and geez, Leonard, we go way back, and but everybody, Aaron and Rob, all you guys, is like way back when no one was writing about Comic-Cons. We all found each other, and it's, what's been so awesome is to see how, even though we can't be together at conventions, our annual sort of reunion, it's great to see that old friendships endure, and every time any of you guys post online, it's a thrill to kind of see what you guys are talking about. So but yeah, that's me.
Excellent stuff. So there you go. That's our guest list. As always, everybody, if you do have any questions, do dive in. We'll try and cover as much as we possibly can. And we do have a pet. We have a pet on screen. That's what we needed. A couple of episodes ago, I had the cat just jumping at there. You go. If it wouldn't, it's not it's not a live stream. It's not a Zoom meeting without some kind of animal just kind of jumping on screen. So
What, Alyssa, what is that? What are you?
It's a bearded dragon,
Ah,
and it's he's just a lizard, you know.
That is a
He's,
face only a mother could love, I'm afraid.
that's right.
Yeah, he's getting annoyed with me. But yeah, I have a
yeah.
He's a fun
Fair
guy.
enough. Okay.
Alyssa, I gotta say, the rest of us look like we're all zooming from like our own like natural environment. You look like you're like getting a mugshots or
I know.
institutionalized or something like what like.
I'm used to zooming with just a. I'm not used to being on screen because I'm in classes about 6 hours a day, and I don't have to be live.
Yeah.
So I'm not used to being on camera.
Fair enough. In that case, we'll zoom out and we'll kind of go for the group shot. We'll go for the group shot.
Thank you.
So we'll start kind of with the announcement from CCI, which I do have the screen grabs of, because it was quite an emotional thing to finally have CCI come out and make the statement. And it was regarding the cancellation. It took place, or the cancellation was announced on March 22nd. And it was the announcement that the first time in its 50-year history, CCI, the organizers behind the annual pop culture convention, announced today that there will not be no Comic-Con in 2020, instead returning July 22nd to the 25th, 2021. Now, I found it interesting with a number of the elements of this particular announcement. If I just bring up the fact that it mentioned about the museum, it was talking about the museum. It's not going to be scaling back the experience offered to the visitors through the museum's grand opening. Part of the big element of that particular museum aspect was going to be live streaming sessions. That you were going to be getting something from the like a professional studio setup in the basement, and you were going to be getting content from there. And I'm curious to see if we're going to be still seeing that as part of Comic-Con at home, which we'll get into in a bit. And also, I quite liked the element as well. All the elements, the aspects of badge holders receiving an email in the next week with instructions on how to request a refund or transfer their badges, or anything to do with the early bird hotels, basically along the lines of, don't call us, we'll call you. I thought that was a nice little kind of touch, because I think they appreciated that there was just going to be so many people asking so many questions, but they just dived straight in and covered it. And of course, it finished on that statement from David Glanzer: extraordinary times will require extraordinary measures and skills. And while we're saddened to take this action, we know that it's the right decision. We eagerly look forward to the time when we can all meet again and share in the community we all love and enjoy. So that was the statement that came out. What was everyone's kind of take on it when they announced it? Was it a case of relief? Was it a case of this was the right decision? Was it disappointment? I mean, if anyone wants to jump in, what was your first reaction when that announcement was made official?
I guess I'll go first. For me, it's a little bit different because I was in the process of organizing my own event later this year. So I've been keeping track of all these events that I've been canceling. So mine isn't scheduled until September. And I know a few other ones have canceled for September recently. So with Comic-Con, formalizing their cancellation for this year, that just further set in stone that, hey, I'm probably gonna have to cancel my event too. So, and I think it was the right decision. At the time, or at this time, there's still a lot of variables out there. Is there gonna be a vaccine? The vaccine probably won't be ready for another year, with all the testing and everything. So, and who's to say that even if you get vaccinated, that you won't be able to get it again? There's
so many variables.
Yeah. So it was the right decision. And, I wouldn't be surprised if there's further cancellations next year. So you just never know. I know a lot of artists that I talk to, they make their livelihood going to these cons, and they're having to push back their projects. And they probably won't be, pushing out their new projects until 2022. So that's just an unfortunate circumstance of this whole pandemic.
I was really curious to see if they were going to postpone the show till the back end of the year. But then you kind of looked also at the available dates in the convention center, because at the end of the day, SDCC is not the only event that takes place at that building. Mm-hmm. And the only available dates, I believe, was Thanksgiving and the week before Christmas. So it's safe to say that that was not going to be happening.
You would think that they might have the leverage to request a date and have somebody else get bumped out of the way, but I think to be a good neighbor, they wouldn't do that. But the other thing is, it seemed inevitable once South by Southwest canceled and Sundance Film Festival. Those are kind of the pure events to San Diego, as far as I can tell, because they're all worldwide cultural events. And that I think it would be one thing if it were a regional show and it was drawing 80 to 90% of the people that come to it from Southern California or something like that. In the same way that like Dragon Con is basically, it gets people from all over the country, but it's fundamentally a regional show to the Southeast. But San Diego is a worldwide show, and people are flying in from everywhere, and they would be flying back to wherever they came from. And you can't be a worldwide vector in a situation like this, even if it was physically possible to have any level of confidence in securing the facility or doing any of that stuff. So I know that the organizers of San Diego are very prudent in how they plan for contingencies, and I think the only reason that the announcement was that long in coming is that it just takes a while to stop the train. You can put the brakes on, and then it might be 3 or 4 weeks before all of the necessary pieces come together to say, okay, we can make the formal announcement now.
Well, that was a question I was going to ask you, if you've heard of any, because I can imagine it wasn't just CCI's decision. They had to jump through a lot of hoops, especially with the administration of the city when it comes to the arrangements with the hotels. And it's slightly different to if, say, New York Comic Con or Emerald City or any other event which is based around a business. It cancels. When it's a non-profit, it is something that is reliant on its relationship with the city. And I can imagine there was that conversation with the mayor's office, with the hoteliers. I mean, was it really more a case
I would imagine
they were waiting on those?
Yeah, I don't have any inside information on that, but sure. I mean, it's a nonprofit, but they run it like a business. So I mean, I think that it's all the same, kind of formal conversations about contracts and stuff like that. One thing that we do know, because at San Diego Comic Con is a nonprofit, is that they post their financials publicly. So they get a lot of heat for keeping, $20 million in the bank year to year. And whenever I've asked them about that, they say that's our contingency fund in case we ever have to bag out on a show for a year for any reason. That's to make sure that we can pay 100 cents on the dollar to all of our stakeholders and not have anybody drop the ball. A lot of these other shows, even ones that have insurance policies for business cancellation, number one, in order for that to come into effect, you need your city or state to declare a state of emergency or have an official announcement to suspend that. And then even so, even the people that have had those policies, the insurance companies are not paying out. They claim for technical reasons. It's like, well, a pandemic isn't covered in the specific language of the policy. But the real reason is no insurance company is set up to pay out for an event that strikes everybody all over the globe. Like nobody's got reserves to cover 100%, coverage. So a lot of the commercial cons are, we're waiting on that. And even so, I think they're going to be disappointed trying to collect on those things. But San Diego's in a different position because they may carry insurance for it. I don't know, but they are self-insured very transparently.
They've got that well to draw from. But yourself, Tony, when did you find out? Did you find out when they made the announcement, or did they contact you first as a vendor, and also somebody who has had a strong relationship with CCI, certainly with the merch in the last couple of years? What was the line of communication with yourself?
I I don't remember exactly how it went down. I mean, they did communicate to vendors, and it all kind of happened around the same time. I don't remember exactly, but yeah, I mean, it was super disappointing. Of course, it kind of felt like back in the '90s, watching Titanic. Just like we all know how Titanic's going to end, right? There's no surprise. There's no surprise how that ship's going down. And I think a few weeks ago, the handwriting was on the wall that there just really was no way that such a global event could really happen. Although we willed it, we wanted it, we were like desperate for it. As a vendor, yeah, it's devastating. It really is, because it's not only our biggest show of the year financially, but then just all of our partnerships, a significant amount of our partnerships are established there. All the media coverage, all the networking, and then personally, it's our sort of our team retreat event for the year as well. So our entire team comes in from all over, and so it's a loss on multiple levels, way beyond just finances, and and just mentally, I think all of us we were all getting grinded down, whether you're a fan or a vendor or whatever part of the industry, we're all getting grinded down by this pandemic. I think we all were looking at San Diego as being the light at the end of the tunnel a little bit. And so it is tough on many levels. I mean, it's the right decision, clearly. And I haven't seen really anyone be negative about it. But I think what the things to be appreciative about is the fact that we had the 50th last year. We were able to celebrate that. I mean, imagine if this was the 50th anniversary and how horrible that would have been. So I do feel like that we were able to sort of put a button on last year's and commemorate the 5 decades of Comic-Con. And I think my biggest concern is that there are talks about, until there's a vaccine developed, whatever, is it possible that this will spill over into next year? Who knows? It might be a while till any sort of large scale events occur. But as a vendor, it's a tough time, because we really depend on the July income to sort of propel us into the rest of the year. And now we're looking at, for the officially or unofficially, the rest of 2020 shows are basically canceled. And I would be surprised if not just if a show opens, but if people actually come to the show and have available income to spend. I mean, so it's such a bizarre sort of experience, and it's nuts.
Yeah. I mean, I saw your posts online about how this is going to be really difficult for Hero Within, but then I also saw your your participation in a couple of virtual cons, and we'll get into those because it is a way of interacting with potential customers, and we'll get into that a little bit in further down the conversation. But certainly,
if I may, because I think Tony put his finger on something really important. It's not just, I mean, as a fan, I'm like totally disappointed, but at the same time, I feel like, well, if I have to miss a year, at least everybody else has to miss a year too. So I'm not like, the idea of it going on and me not being there is even more terrible than just not having it. But certainly as an exhibitor, like, retailers are going to lose money, professionals are going to lose money, but this is also the date on the calendar that everybody circles for marketing of movies. And I mean, it's for professionals that go in and are trying to shop their portfolios or pitch new books. Like, this is the one time of the year that they have a chance to get FaceTime with their editors. All of that stuff that is the underpinnings of the professional community and the industry of comics and the industry of comics in the media world, that foundation is like missing. There's a big hole in the floor there where everybody was going to do that stuff. So we don't know really what the implications of missing out on that part of the that date on the media calendar is going to be. But it's surely much more chaotic than just, like, Emerald City is a great show, and the pros and the retailers and everything really miss that. But it's not in this any way the same. Like, San Diego Comic-Con is a thing unto itself.
Well, even just the more behind the scenes as an exhibitor, with WonderCon and with Comic Con, many of us had already had exclusives in the lineup, in the production pipeline. All that sort of got messed up because of the pandemic. But money's been invested, things have been in process, and there's already a lot of money tied up into having merchandise available for those big shows like WonderCon and for Comic Con. And so there's already money lost before any of this even happens. With every cancellation, there's money lost that the public doesn't really see. So so there's many layers of this, Rob, that people are experiencing.
Well, that kind of brings up. Oh, Alyssa, were you saying that you want to say something?
Sorry,
Sorry, you put your hand up.
A couple of thoughts
Yeah.
brought up both by Tim and Rob, Tony and Rob. Sorry. One, I wish that John Rogers was here.
Yes.
At the helm of Comic-Con. I miss.
You're not the only one.
I'm sure that the current head of Comic-Con is doing wonderfully well and all of that, but I wish we still had John Rogers' hand beyond that. The other thing was the music industry, the movie industry. We've got a number of threads of how this going forward, even on the small screen or the big screen, how this is going to impact us and our viewing habits. We don't even begin to understand. I mean, the fact that there's a $1 trillion industry that's effectively stopped because of this pandemic. I mean, it's worse than the restaurant industry, because the restaurant industry at least has to-go orders and it's kind of smaller scale. The movie industry, everybody is out of work. So there's that. And then there's one more thing, and I'm with LA's projection of holding the stay-in-place order until the end for the next 3 months. I'm thinking that Star Wars Celebration is also canceled.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
So those are just my 3 thoughts on the excellent points that Rob and Tony made earlier.
I mean, you could also say that with the survey that went out from ReadPop, which was asking all of the potential attendees for New York Comic Con, how do you feel about a virtual con? What kind of elements do you want to put on? That pretty much tells you what their thoughts are about New York as well. I can't see that going ahead either. I
was hopeful that New York would. I knew that New York wasn't going to happen because of the epicenter that's going on there, but I was kind of thinking that Anaheim with Disney. I mean, because Disney's big, the mouse is big, and if anybody's going to open up, Disney is going to open up, and that would carry through till to a Star Wars Celebration, but not with the stay-in-place order. Sure.
Certainly, we're talking about the way that it's impacting businesses, and I'm going to turn this over to the San Diego residents in the guests. How did San Diego respond to the announcement that it was closed? Because it is an event which brings so much money into the city for hotels, for restaurants, for hospitality. The numbers are staggering when you look into just the revenue coming into that infrastructure. I mean, what was the tone, and how's the city responded to the news that San Diego Comic-Con isn't coming this year?
Aaron?
Well, obviously there's a lot of disappointment, as showcased by even the comments in the live comments for the show. I mean, how can you replace like what $150 million coming in for that week? It's going to be tough. I still don't have an answer for that. It's really, it's really.
I'm curious to how's the conventions? Is the convention center still running the shelter?
People?
homeless people program at the moment? Is that still in place?
That's a good question. I know they were. I think they may have been ramping down, but I'm not. I don't know what the current update is on that right now.
Because
in general, the vibe here has been very positive. Newsom and our mayor have done an amazing job of flattening the curve. So we are doing very well, and the loosening that's happening now of reopening the public beaches and that sort of stuff is deserved, frankly. And we haven't been seeing the impact of higher infection rates at this point. We're still in that nebulous zone between it, but there's no question that the restaurant industry and the tourism industry is been majorly impacted, and we're trying to get people back to work. I'm seeing restaurants reopening in my area now.
I think the biggest.
Go ahead, Aaron.
Oh, I was gonna say, I think the biggest impact will be on family-owned businesses. I mean, there's a coffee shop I used to go to. They're going to be closing down just because, they couldn't open up, and it's unfortunate. But those the small family-run businesses, unfortunately, that'll be taking the brunt of this pandemic.
Right.
I mean, the only ones that I would see having a chance of having any kind of staying on the schedule through the summer is stuff that's held outdoors. I think there was one in Huntington Beach last year that was largely like kind of a street fair style comic convention. Tony, were you at that one? That's kind of up in your neck of the woods.
I don't think so.
It was more sort of an indie style, not like a big, media superheroes type show, but more of a, like a small press thing. But they got a lot of people, and it was like set up outside. And I think over the summer in sunny places outside where you've got space, that's one thing. Somebody was asking in the comments about like, is Emerald City likely to happen in August? I think if we have events in August in Seattle, they're going to be mostly outdoor events, and we're still going to be under 250 people for the cap size. If that, if even the way that the governor is trying to stage stuff out, it seems highly unlikely that you could have a 5,000 person version of Emerald City held inside the convention center. And honestly, at that scale, it wouldn't even make economic sense really to try and do it.
No, it makes sense. I mean, I'm also just looking at the way that they can just turn it around, and because we've been looking at the same situation at a number of the cities which have run these conventions, the convention centers, and they've converted them into medical facilities. And just I'm wondering how they're going to even do a turnaround to even beyond the end of this year to get it back to some kind of normality.
You want to hear something sick and twisted? For a moment, I thought, wait, I could actually stay at the convention center. Maybe I'll, head down there for a couple of days, but I don't want to take up an available bed, and I don't think my family would appreciate that. But I was like,
I don't think that would be great either. And the last thing we want is you homeless on this one. Okay, we've got, like I say, a couple of comments coming in. Manuel Ramos saying Star Wars Celebration moves around. Will Celebration say in Anaheim for the next opening? Whether the whole idea of just basically taking this year almost like the snap, and then coming back next year and sort of like restarting things up. Could it be at Anaheim next year? Who knows? Movers and shakers, movie theaters being closed affect vendors that provide them with candy, beverages, and food. It's all a knock-on effect, I think, is what we've definitely been discussing. And Sarita P, I'm sure the vendors that were supposed to be at San Diego Comic Con will have their exclusives online to make up for some profits lost. Well, in that case, we'll talk to yourself, Tony, on that one, because obviously there is all that revenue that has that would have been at events like San Diego Comic Con, but you've also been involved in some online events, and it was a big question on my mind as to whether something like that could even get any kind of return that you could need to continue to operate. I know that you were as part of Virtual Pop Expo. How did that go down?
Yeah, there's been a couple of different attempts at providing some sort of online sort of opportunity, and I really appreciate Bernie and the organizers of Virtual Pop Expo, as well as there's been some other sort of smaller attempts, because there's for the most part there's no real money to be had as the organizer. Like, most of it is just trying to create a platform for fans as well as for exhibitors. Yeah, I mean there's a bit of a challenge, just because everybody's experience right now shopping online is you just open up the laptop and click around, and it's nothing like the experience of going to a show. So I probably would say right now any sort of virtual experience, the value that it brings to the community is the online panel sort of opportunity. The bringing Zoom calls in and it's very low effort and minimal risk for celebrities or guests to be able to participate, especially now that everyone's kind of crossed a technical barrier with sources like Zoom and others. But as far as like vendors and anything related to that, it's much more of a challenge. It's harder. It really is, just because you just don't get that experience of being able to walk into a booth. And for us, we value the in-booth experience, interacting with our staff, touching, feeling, experiencing clothing. And so
I'm glad you put clothing in there. Thank you for that.
Yeah. So it's not the same. It's not the same. Now, maybe someday it'll get that way. Obviously, if we continue down this path where virtual cons become more the norm, or if anything, like it's the sort of the stopgap or the solution for the next couple of years, maybe someone will figure it out. But because right now on my laptop I have access to every store across the globe, the competition with a virtual con is the fact that Amazon and eBay and every other online store, you have direct access. And so I think it's yet to be seen if the virtual experience is a viable solution for exhibitors and vendors. But I think it's a great solution for all the panelists and guests, and that sort of direct. I've been helping out Wizard World a little bit with their virtual experiences, hosting some panels, and the fans can watch a show like this, and then immediately after they can they sign up, pay for a one-on-one chat with their guests, just like you're going to get an autograph. And so that model seems to work for Wizard World, and I think that's pretty ideal. But yeah, I don't think right now there's a really awesome solution for vendors. So yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'm working on a story because GalaxyCon and ReadPop are both doing their own versions of that model that you're talking about, Tony, where they do the celebrity panels. So the celebrity panel is either free or at a very nominal cost, and then afterwards they sell the one-on-one experiences. Yeah. I talked to Mike Broder at GalaxyCon, and they've been doing a great business with that stuff. And I think that if you have a merchandise tie-in with the cast, that, like, for instance, they did a Kim Possible voice cast, and if you've got like a piece of merch that ties into the panel that they're doing, there might be an opportunity for like exclusives and stuff like that on that end of it. But it's such a narrow, I mean, it's like, you were on this like 20-lane highway, and now you're on like this little dirt road, with a mule cart, and that's your, that's your path to market. With this stuff is just not. And I saw your post also. And I really feel for you, Tony, because you've built that business through really great ingenuity and hard work and team building and great taste in your designs. Yeah. You didn't make a single mistake anywhere, and then this thing happens for no fault of your own. Well, yeah, I'm sure you've made plenty of mistakes, but the
perception.
for a small business, your growth curve is awesome, and you made a lot of good decisions. And then the stuff that happened to you and to all of the other people in your position that are just rounding that bend to scale, and then it's like through no fault of your own, you're screwed, and cut off from your customers.
Yeah,
that's happening everywhere, and that's going to be a really hard thing to come back from. And it's bad because we're going to need people like you and your business to come back, because that's the kind of stuff that we need right now.
Yeah, thank you for saying that, Rob. It's very generous of you. For me, like other vendors, like we had planned on 2020 to be our best show yet, and we had all the ducks were lined up. It was like really going to be amazing, especially during the February, March, April. We had like a highest concentration of shows with like Emerald City and Fan Expo Dallas, and WonderCon was there at the tail end. So we had just this year we were going to just propel into the next level, and we do about 60% of our sort of our cash flow comes from our in-person show experience. And so with all that gone, and then on that, because of the pandemic, people aren't necessarily shopping high fashion, and that's not like the clothes for going outdoors is not necessarily in high demand. So the apparel industry is right above the travel and hotel industry, and right below the restaurant industry as far as like if you want to talk about like the levels. And so hotel and travel is obviously the worst. So for it's super devastating, and we've already had to make some pretty difficult cutbacks, and we're going to have to make some more that we'll probably have to announce as we go into this next rest of the year. But yeah, it's I wish I could say with any certainty that we can ride this out, but like every business out there, I mean, geez, Disney took a $11 billion loan to just kind of to continue their functioning. Uber did a $1 billion loan. We're not quite at the level of taking out a $1 billion loan, but I am grateful for there are some grants and loans for small businesses that that's sort of helping us sort of like kind of keep our head above water. But the reality is that no one knows if we're going to be around, anyone's going to be around business wise, and so we're having to pivot and think about other opportunities. We did our face mask drive for the month of March and April, and grateful for all the fans that participated in that. But now it's just the big question is just like,
what's next?
What's next? And does this mean something fundamentally different for our company?
Fair enough. Well, I mean, very quickly. Go on, Alyssa.
Can we see a new line of loungewear from Tony Kim?
Yeah, we are working. Yeah, we are working on that. So that is definitely something that's in the pipeline as well.
Because those seem to be, they may be selling well.
Yeah,
Aaron.
But
I just wanted to just quickly add. I think when it comes to virtual cons, I think at the very least they should have a second stream. Going alongside the celebrity stream to showcase, the celebrities in Artist Alley and small press or vendors like Tony.
Absolutely.
Because I was at Virtual Pop Expo. I attended for a few hours, and I tried to interact with some of the people that were vendors, but it was kind of hard because there was a lag. Maybe there might have been a glitch. So if at least people who are attending can see the get to know the vendors through a stream. A video stream going alongside the concurrently with the celebrity stream or whatever panels going on, that at least gives somebody who doesn't know who they are at least a first glimpse of what that person's all about, because we're all missing that initial. It's just like when you go to a con and you see Hero Within, you see their presence. We're really missing that. So at least this would give them a head start in trying to interact with somebody who might want to check out their stuff and buy something.
Yeah.
I mean, just to talk, I know that Rob mentioned Mike Broder, for the president of GalaxyCon, and the reason why the wry smile on my face. Watch for an incidental episode in the next week or so. We are actually going to have him. We're going to interview him as part of the show. So looking forward to talking to him and seeing what he's going to bring.
the stuff, you have no idea what will come out of his mouth. He is one of the great interviews in the comics business. A terrific guy, runs an interesting show. He is dead set, by the way. I don't want to steal his thunder, but in the conversation that I had with him, he feels very, very confident that they're going to hold their Raleigh show at the end of July.
Really,
just because of the way that the regulations are rolling out in the United States, and it just depends on where you live. And I think these shows in southern states where they're not as science oriented around how they're dealing with their public health issues, you know, is going to be a little bit more promising for, you know, just exhibitors wear your masks and gloves. But
well, you know, we're still signed up for Dallas Fan Expo. Got rescheduled for the mid June in Texas.
Yeah.
So you know, I grew up in Texas, and so I know the Texas mentality. We've got the we got the Alamo, you know, like the Last Stand, like, well, you know. But it is hard to imagine that a show can come back that early. And of course, Emerald City hasn't canceled yet. It's in, you know, August, a few months away. So I'm really curious.
Yeah, I'll take the under on that one.
Yeah.
But yeah.
But I'll be curious if, like, I'm really, like, in a month, will we be in Dallas, and then as an exhibitor and as guests, like, do I even want to go? You know, so I'm still kind of shocked that they are still holding out. Also, like, Star Trek Vegas is scheduled for August too. So, but then you have like Rose City Comic Con in September that canceled. So it's like and so it's weird just how different.
Well, we don't have we don't have a national policy about this stuff, and it's like, you know, in Texas, you know, life is cheap, I guess, and it doesn't. Whatever. So
if only there was like a person at the top of all this that could sort of make wise choices about our entire country. Like,
and we'll bring it to a close there.
Some sort of system where there was a single person that could bring this country together. But you know, that's crazy.
That's crazy talk. Yeah.
So yeah, looking forward to talking to Mike. So that brought that on. And also we did have the interview as well with the people behind Virtual Pop Expo prior to that event going on, and he actually didn't reveal on that interview that CCI had approached virtual the organizers and the infrastructure as a possible solution to Comic-Con at home or their virtual efforts. So that I was paying very close attention to Virtual Pop Expo because that may even be the way that CCI may bring stuff going forward. Certainly,
I do have to say that as well intentions of Virtual Pop Expo, it's clear that it's going to take an organization with considerable resources, manpower, and money to actually pull off a virtual event. Even though it feels like it's sort of like it could be like a free YouTube event, the reality is that it takes a lot of people, a lot of man hours, a lot of resources. And so I could see a company, the only company that's got shot at it is San Diego, because they actually can.
The technology just isn't quite there.
It's just not there. It's just not there yet. Yeah, it's not there yet. And Aaron, as you mentioned, I mean, the technology just was not quite there yet. And so I think you'd have to have a company like San Diego that has the social influence, the resources, the manpower to actually pull off an experience like that. That is at least, you know, that
and the financial. And the financial backing to get these systems in place, because this takes a level of technology that we have not reached yet. I mean, Zoom is great, but it's it's all googly, you know. It's all Google. It's not there yet. None of it is there yet, and we don't have the level of professionalism in the technological areas to do these things yet. It will get there. Do you
think CCI? I mean, they've got what 2 months now. Can they build something, and can they get? Because I think the other thing that I mean, I do want to move on from the virtual con aspect of it, but it is a big element of what we're going to be experiencing this year. Does it actually also take a bit of a cultural perception shift to accept a virtual con? Because like Rob said, and like Tony said, it is about that interaction with the person that would be on the other side of the table. That is the major element of it. It's really kind of the one-to-one selling, as it were. It's okay having YouTube channels and live streams and whatever, but to actually get the vendors, to actually get the artists to interact with the clients, the people that would be in front of you, is it a case of can a virtual con actually work? I mean, I'll put that to Alyssa and I'll put that to Aaron. I mean, is it something that can be, because certainly with Virtual Pop Expo as well, they almost expected you as well to be there from like an actual con, from the day that the moment the doors opened at 10 o'clock in the morning through till the close of the actual day, that you would be milling around. And that's not really what people do when it comes to an online experience.
I think for now, it'll be like a niche type of thing. I attended something called Alt, Free Comic Book Day, that was organized by Russell Nolte and Neo Edmond, and it was 14 hours of live streaming, and it was a really awesome experience. But I only think you would probably go through that and watch the whole thing if you saw the guest list and you saw, oh yeah, I love these creators. So if you are into the indie creators, or you're into, like, checking out whoever they have on the guest list, then I think that's something you're gonna want to do for 14 hours. But if you're not, then it's not going to be the con for you. So scaling that up to the size of San Diego Comic-Con, I don't know if that's possible at this point in time.
Okay, we've got comments coming in, and we'll go through very quickly a bunch of these before we move on to a next topic. I was interviewed by someone from the creators of Rose City Comic-Con about Virtual Con, and reminded them that the exhibitors and vendors are just as important as the celebrities in making a great con, virtual or not.
Exactly.
And we've got Con Guy. I'd say they're almost more important. I know that celebs draw eyeballs, but exhibitors and vendors are the lifeblood. Absolutely, totally agree. And the response here, a bit backwards and forwards here. That's what I told them too. But for them, it's about income for them, especially if they have celebrities. So yeah, it's I can appreciate that whole the content track is very much a big part of it. And I suppose the question then is, how much content can actually be presented? With the virtual cons and the things that we've seen so far, we've had a couple of creator panels. We've had a couple of say cast presentations. Comic-Con, San Diego Comic-Con, like Rob said at the beginning, is a whole other ball game. The amount of content, the sheer, the raw tonnage of stuff that is available at San Diego Comic-Con is a whole other level. At which point, then how can you even scratch the surface of something like that? Would it be a case of as much video content as they can possibly upload onto their screens? Would it be a case of the panel hosts themselves creating it and then uploading it to the channel? How on earth can this all be done, and done in a branded way that it's a unified convention experience? Rob, any thoughts?
They're soliciting, the programming people are soliciting for panels and stuff like that. It's not clear to me how they're going to do it, and it's also not clear to me how the scale, like if you do a virtual Hall H, like what's the impact of that versus the effort that you put into it? Is it going to get, is it going to get the kind of attention that you get from a Hall H presentation for the people that are investing in bringing that level of talent in and stuff like that? And if you don't have that, then how is that any different from this podcast or from any other event where you've got a bunch of talking heads on screen talking about what they're talking about? And so I think that one thing is that the studios that use Comic-Con as a springboard for publicity and things like that are already kind of writing off that effect. No matter what they do, they're not going to be able to generate that. And on the press side, I'm finding that the availability of people for like my Forbes stuff is unprecedented right now. Like the other day, the Warner Brothers said, do you want to talk to Jeff Johns about Stargirl? I'm like, hell yeah, I do. Like, I never get offered people like that usually. I gotta, so they're really desperate to get the word out about these things. My Jeff Johns story is up on Forbes, by the way, if you're interested in reading it. But it's he has some cool stuff to say. But it's like that was those are the kind of people I've been trying to get for a long time, and it's hard. And probably for you too, Leonard. Getting people on the show, or anybody that's trying to solicit people to come and talk about their stuff. I think because the people that are invested in the return on investment for that attention understand that it's just not at the same level. It's just not going to do anything for them.
Sure. Well, I'm really curious to see how the element of the studios is going to be, and the interaction, because people have been talking about whether Marvel Studios will get officially involved, whether Sony, Paramount, the people that would be bringing content to the main stage at Hall H, whether they do a presentation and then just hit play on a trailer, and that would be on the Comic-Con channel or whatever. I'd be curious to see if there would be kind of like this way of unifying it in those 4 days of this year.
I don't know. I think that as much as I guess as influential as Comic-Con is, as we all know over the years, it's been, when it comes to technology, San Diego's been, how do we say, conservative on their approach. And so, because they certainly wouldn't want to do anything that tarnishes the brand and the experience. Sure. So, and they always leaned towards the in-person experience versus streaming content out. And so there's tons of content that gets pushed out of San Diego, but typically that's all fan and other industry based. That's not from within the organization. And so to consider the scale what you're talking about, 2 months is enough time for that, honestly, because you'd have to cast a crystal clear vision of what the experience will look like, get all these major brands on board like Warner Brothers and Marvel, and get them to buy into it, get them to sponsor it, give up available cash flow, and no one, because this is such uncharted territory, it's very difficult right now to cast a clear vision for it. I mean, who can do that? So I think it'd be awesome to have I can sort of envision, remember G4 back in the day, where it's just fun and lively and guests, and then you peel off to these little segments, and then you highlight stuff and commercials, and I could definitely envision that, but that can't come together in 2 months. I just think it's just way too much to ask for. It'd be awesome. It'd be awesome too, but I just think that really they just made the announcement, which means they only have 2 months to execute it. I think that's too much to ask for anybody, especially an organization that size.
Isn't it a shame that they don't have an online on-demand service which would be available as a subscription, perhaps? It's a shame. It's a shame that Comic-Con on demand. It's a shame,
like an HQ sort of.
Like a central HQ. Yeah, it's a shame that there isn't something like that in place. You do have. Con Guy is correct in saying CCI is resistant to putting their panels online, especially the larger panels with exclusives, videos and trailers. Joel the Geek is saying would need to create a framework on the website to have some things be exclusive access versus free videos that everyone can share and see. That is an interesting question, considering, like we have talked in the past, people do buy badges. Would that be an automatic membership to such a service? Who knows? But then again, let's actually just remind ourselves of what CCI have announced and what we will be expecting this summer. This, for me, seemed a little sparse on info, but then again, it was just almost let's just get something out there. Comic-Con at home coming this summer. So the good news is, Alyssa, pets are welcome. So that's handy to know. But it was something that was very quickly put together, and I'm just really curious to see in 2 months exactly what they're going to be able to present to us. Let's then look. Let's move on and try and move to next year then, because several people have been looking at how 21 is going to look. especially considering that it's still going to be very much restrictive with people getting to the convention on flights and making it as strong as possible for next year. People, I think, are still going to be reticent, not just international flights, but also just within the country to get on a plane. Where do we feel as a group 2021 is going to be? Are we going to be up to some kind of speed for next July?
Hey, before we totally dive into that, I went ahead and I already planned a few days in San Diego this year. Already got a hotel and at the Bayfront, actually, so they're dirt cheap. And I don't know if we'll get the. I don't think we'll get the all clear. I don't know if we'll get the all clear or not. If it's not, if we don't get a relative all clear, I'll cancel. But I do feel like that it would be great to support San Diego and the local businesses as best we can. And so right now we're planning on me and family, friends to go down to San Diego for that week to show our support. Again, hotels are super cheap, $150 for the Hard Rock or Bayfront or others, and then their cancellation has right now it's all the way up to the date. So that's just something that if someone is interested to check that out. Again, if there isn't a real a meaningful all clear, then it won't happen. But right now, there's no risk to it, so I definitely want to attempt that.
So is this an official announcement of the Hero Within Con in
Tony's room at the Bayfront?
Yes, I'm there. I'll come totally.
Listen,
I mean, I may have one or two pieces with me, but
dude, if you announced you had the San Diego Comic-Con 50th bomber jacket, you would be fighting them off at the door.
Seriously, let us know when you're going to be in San Diego. And we can do a socially respectful gathering, perhaps on the front lawn or something.
Right now I'm planning on that weekend of that Comic-Con would have been. So hopefully we'll San Diego and everything will be in a little better spot in a couple of months. But
you will know when I have arrived. My muffler is killer on my bike.
So basically what you're saying, Tony, is whereas usually we'd be looking at people camping out in the tents to get into Hall H, in July, you'll just be in a tent outside, and that's going to be the convention for this year. Fair enough.
But, I mean, if you have nothing to do and you like a little risk and things,
that's the thing, isn't it?
Then
oddly enough, I was at CES in January, and there reportedly was a fairly large outbreak of the virus there. They figured it out because they had a cluster in San Jose, Silicon Valley. So there's a number of people who I think have got are immune to it. Likewise, I'm sure in Seattle, Rob, that just have. So you're going to have this class of people who, in theory, if it follows, are immune to it, that are able to attend things like conventions in September.
That's not the issue, is it? It's not whether you're immune to it, it's whether you're then going to transmit it to somebody who isn't.
Well, no, if you're immune to it, then you're not going to become infectious. Yes. But I think the public health issue is one thing, and I think that it may be by 2021 that we'll be clear of the public health worst of it for one reason or another, either because we've got herd immunity or treatment or vaccine or whatever. The problem is that the economic impact of this is I don't think people have quite figured out. Like basically we're like a plane cruising at 35,000 feet and the engine is off, and it's like we haven't hit the ground yet, but there's no engine there, and it's it's like the production has been halted on TV shows. That's not going to be felt for like 9 months from now. There's not going to be new seasons of stuff because they're not shooting it right now or they're not editing it right now. If a theater chain goes bankrupt, there's they're out of business and there's no screens. If comic stores, so there's 2,500 comic stores around. If enough of them go out of business because of this, that number goes down to say 15 or 1600, that's not critical mass to sell comic books anymore. It no longer makes economic sense to print and distribute comics for retail sale. So that's the kind of stuff that I'm more worried about right now, because our economy has had a stroke, and it's like we're not quite, it hasn't processed all the way through yet.
There's a definite head in the sand element to people not realizing that. I mean, to be rather glib, I was going to turn around and say, I know that you were talking about this dearth of content for the next 9 months and what we're going to experience next year. If I see a number of films or television programs which are all based around webcam footage, I'm gonna really jump off a cliff, because that is not what I'm looking forward to at all. The last thing I need to see is a whole bunch of webcam driven content.
But how is Wonder Woman 1984 going to make $1 billion on pay-per-view? Like, if there's no box office, then the scale that all of this stuff has been operating at just collapses down into something that we're not accustomed to. In my book,
I was just say, and as a vendor, that's our last line of defense, is the content that gets released out to the public. And so when you have things like Black Widow gets pushed way into November, and then all these movies pushed way back, and there's no platform to sell merchandise, then we're dead in the water as well. So it just impacts everything.
Yeah. So I mean, so the reasons I'm concerned about 2021 are less about the public health and more about that stuff. And I was just going to say that in the book that I wrote about Comic-Con back in 2012, I did these scenarios of what the future looks like, and 2 of them were sort of boom time scenarios, and 2 of them were kind of industry decline scenarios. And for the last 8 years, we haven't had to think about the dark side of that equation. But there is a world with that where this stuff has deflated, and it continues because people still love it. People, their passion for the content is undiminished, but the commercial framework that has grown up around this stuff, that we can't, I don't know how much we can count on that.
Sure. I mean,
in the medium term.
We may see some of it, or may see an impact of that almost really short term, because I've got friends in New Zealand which are about to start opening up businesses, and I know that in the US you're wanting to start up the engine again, and here in the UK, same drill. I've got a couple of people who are managers or are staff at cinemas, and they're being told that within the next month and a half, they're going to be opening up their cinemas again with no films to show, with nothing to put on the screen. There's nothing coming out. There's nothing being produced. There's nothing to go out onto the screen. I think people are going to suddenly realize this dearth of content, which is going out there. When it comes to San Diego Comic-Con, then the actual getting people to the convention, I mean, we've got comments on the in the chat. Going to a mass event is just taking possibly your life in your own hands. The getting international talent, or even getting like domestic talent into San Diego, flying them in, is going to be problematic. What kind of state do we see, or could look to see, San Diego Comic-Con next year? Certainly for this, I mean, this is a question I wanted to ask with you in mind, because I know that you've mentioned on the forum that perhaps this is the time for San Diego Comic-Con to take a more local approach and become more of a West Coast convention, and maybe scale back a little bit. What's your take on it?
Well, I'm not sure scale back.
No.
San Diego Comic-Con scaling back, I think that they are driven by what people, what vendors, and what the industry wants to present. So if there are not as many outdoor experiences or vendors who want to go, then maybe it will contract and be a smaller con, along the lines of what Rob is illustrating in terms of the economic climate that we're going to be in. I have to say that my background is definitely saying that we're in for a major financial impact like we've never seen before on the scale of the Depression. I hate to be so negative, but that's what I'm hearing. So taking it small, concentrating on the roots, the comic vendors, the media that's able to get out there and do things, I think is the only, and like Tony is talking about, small scale, and going for the things that are selling, like the more comfortable clothing, the iconic, you're bringing back the Wonder Woman jacket. I think was brilliant, and having that come back in stock recently, I picked that up. So that's my take on where things could go with regards to the technology, breaking out into smaller rooms for conventions. Just to jump back into that topic, a vendor driven. So you've got a show floor, and you break out into the Hero Within booth, for example, and are able to one-on-one interact with your customer, with the store people and the customers, and have a presentation for things. I think is a way that the vendor feeling could be brought to the attendees. Sorry, I got off track there a little bit.
Not at all. Rob, I know that you're having to bow out relatively soon, so if we just quickly bring you in and just to ask your thoughts on San Diego Comic-Con next year, and whether it could in fact just be the time to kind of take it back, like Alyssa says, to its roots, perhaps.
I think that
is that even possible?
Well, I don't know if it's possible or not, but I do know that, having spoken to David and some of the organizers there, that at least their expressed view on this stuff is they do it for the love of what they're doing, and they are a nonprofit. They don't have a board of directors that's requiring them to increase their attendance and increase their sales receipts every year. So I think they will do the best show that they can do at the scale that they can do it in, and that they don't care. It's not central to their mission, it's not central to their identity, and it's not central to their commercial purpose to run the biggest show ever. Their show became big because they did it so well, as opposed to the economics that are present on like with Reed Pop is a different story, and they have or any show that's being run commercially has a different set of priorities, and if they don't have that scale, then they have a lot of other questions to ask. So I don't worry quite as much about San Diego. It will be, if it's physically possible and logistically possible for them to have a convention, they'll do the best they can at the level that they can do it. And anybody that's lucky to get to it and that can make it, whether it's local or international, is going to have, the best Comic-Con experience they can have. So I'm not that worried about it. And I don't think that they are either. I don't think it's necessary for them to run the show that we've seen for the last 15 years in order for them to think it's a successful event.
Fair enough.
Second that.
Yeah, I mean, we've got a couple of comments that have come in, and then we'll we'll start wrapping things up. Karen Session, I go for the smaller panels. I love them. If San Diego Comic-Con shrinks, I'm fine with that. You also have Kitty Gunn. If attending a con, you either have to wear a Bane mask or a blow-up dinosaur costume for safety. And indeed, Andrew Dickinson, I can see a lot of spacesuits.
I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
Or Breaking Bad. That's also another one that's going to be popular, I imagine.
I can see a lot of Hannibal Lecters with the mask across. I can see a lot of Halloween masks as well, that kind of thing. So we'll see how it goes.
Yeah, I just think that there will have to be a vaccine. I don't think Comic-Con's coming back until there's a vaccine. And so, because there's no real sense of scaling back, because first of all, the brand of San Diego Comic-Con is so big and strong that if the doors are open, the world has no shortage of dumb people that's going to just hoard that place, right? And so
you're not supposed to say that, Tony.
Inside voice, Tony. Inside voice.
I'm just saying, as a Californian looking at our California beaches, there's just no shortage of people that's gonna come to Comic-Con. And so, scaling it back from 150 to 100 to 50 to 20,000 to even 5,000, it's still going to be that same level of contagion possibility. So until there's a vaccine, I don't think we can really plan on San Diego coming back, because they're not going to put people at risk. They're smarter than that, and they're more.
You're going to be the one enforcing social distancing at the Funko booth when the exclusive goes on. I mean, like,
yeah, right. Yeah, who's going to do? I mean, how is that going to even happen? So,
somebody that we're going to be getting on the show in the next couple of weeks is Michael Glesso from the Marvel booth. I can't see Marvel, that booth, implementing any kind of social distancing at all.
It's impossible. So it doesn't matter if there's 100,000 people or 100 people, because of the, what we know Comic-Con is. There's just no way to protect people. So until there's a vaccine, I just don't see San Diego coming back.
Yeah, I agree with Tony. I think without the vaccine, then we don't see it coming back. But at the same time, just, Rob mentioned logistics, and I think user experience. And I think one thing that maybe they can implement, I'm just thinking off the top of my head right now, is that they can sort of get a rough idea beforehand of how many people want to go where. Like, you have this. I know schedules are hard to come by and organize before the event, but if they can, they have an online system where they can see where people want to go. Then they can sort of estimate, okay, so this is how many people want to go here, and we can sort of delegate these resources to managing that panel or this part of the convention, because without that information, there's no way that you can sort of proactively enforce social distancing for certain events during the convention.
Fair enough. I mean, it makes I think all great points, and I think also just people's eagerness to get there as well. Whether there's a vaccine or any kind of social distancing elements, just the desire for people to go there. And I think an interesting point that has been made before we do wrap up is Karen's session. The number of people who request refunds will tell the tale. I think that's going to be an interesting way to gauge how 2021 is going to go.
Isn't it like 1% requesting refunds?
Yeah, no one's asking for refund. I mean, it's a lottery.
Nobody.
So it's like, who would unless you're in financial dire straits, which many people are, but no one wants to give up their place in line for next year.
Yeah.
Really? At the end of the day, it's still a risk. It's still a risk.
Yeah.
I think I ran a poll on my site and basically asking, now granted, I've got a devoted audience, but I think we had 1 or 2 people saying they were going to get refunds. Seriously, out of everybody who answered,
they offered vendors, you could get a refund or you can move it forward to 2021 but risk lose your spot if you get asked for a refund. And so I'm like, who's going to give up that opportunity? So unless you just we're talking life or death and financially, then yes, but it's just safer to wait and see what happens.
The refund that I want is for the not the Nine Inch Nails concert. What was it? The Boys. Yeah, that's the concert that I want a refund for.
Yeah, the one that was at the Petco. Yeah.
Ticketmaster. I mean, Ticketmaster isn't giving refunds.
Well, I think that as a company, I think they've got skin in that game. They've never been one to give money back. I mean,
it's not up to the ticketing company. It's up to the event.
Yeah, fair enough. Well, we'll tell you what, we'll let everyone go because I think we've kept you long enough. But thank you so much indeed for coming on and talking to us about it. We covered quite a bit, and I think we still only scratched the surface. There is so much that we could carry on going on. But thank you so much indeed for coming on. We'll go around the room again. If you could just let people know where people can find you and what you're up to. Certainly, like I say, Rob, you've got all these great articles that are coming up.
Follow me on Twitter at Rob Salk. That's where I tweet out all the stuff. I have stuff up on Forbes right now with the Jeff Johns interview and some other things. I have a piece coming on Publishers Weekly someday about digital manga services. And then I have ICB2 probably later this week on sort of the state of the world on virtual conventions.
Excellent stuff. Thank you very much indeed for joining us, Rob. Aaron, again, thank you so much indeed for coming on. It's been a pleasure
you.
seeing you again, sir. You smart and svelte guy. I used look at that. It's the best bloody haircut in fandom. Jesus.
Yeah, and I like his fashion sense too.
There you go. There you go,
Absolutely.
brother.
Why have you not got this guy on as a consultant? It's just insane. So yeah, where can people find you, especially when it comes to the Hall H show?
Sure. Just go to hallh.com/Aaron, and you can find all my social media links for not only for myself, but for Hall H, Comic Con Fit, and for Phil Am Creator Con. So check those out, and look out for more Hall H show episodes coming out soon.
Looking forward to it. Alyssa, it's been great to see you again. It really has. And I hope you feel better soon. I hope that the aching fades. And
It was
that you
2
get
weeks
to...
ago. I'm just not public on social media about
Fair
such
enough.
stuff.
Fair enough.
So I'm totally cool. Like I showed you guys, I got my new bike. My question that my burning question, and this is like, we're still doing the Weekend TV article that was just published a couple of hours ago. So go on my site, look for it. It's at friendsofcc.com, and it should pop up in the right-hand corner. I got to figure out how to stream TNT tonight, because Snowpiercer, that was the last panel I saw at San Diego last year, and I really want to see that show. That really looks interesting.
Oh, hey, Alyssa.
I've got screeners and watched it. It's very, very good.
Hey, listen, will you be eating the cockroach energy bars?
I didn't screw up the courage to do that. I got 2 of them last year, and I didn't do that.
I've had the screeners. It's very, very good. You're going to have a lot of fun.
I'm sure. So TNT tonight, that's the highlight of my week. So what can I say?
Alyssa, we hope you get released from your jail failure into the institution that you're in right now.
Hey, I'm flying out on the highways these days. It's a blast on my motorcycle. So I'm just, you may have this perception of me that I'm in lockdown. I'm not.
Fair enough. And for yourself, Tony, thank you so much indeed for coming on, sir. Yep. Obviously, we want to support Hero Within as much as we possibly can. Best place for people to go.
Yeah, you can just Google Hero Within. We have our online store, all the social media. We're doing all kinds of great sales right now, and some going into next month. And we're offering free shipping because we know everyone has to stay at home. So check us out, herewithinstore.com, or here within all of our social media outlets. And so we're pressing forward. We're trying our best to release new content as things develop. We have Wonder Woman coming out, and some new merch, a lot of new merch, like our Star Trek bomber that just came out. So definitely just keep following us, and new content and new merchandise coming out all the time.
Excellent stuff. And yeah, we've got all these comments coming in. Con Guy, Hero Within is the best. Karen Session, praying for the continuation of Tony's business. Into the Blue Mister, I'd just like to say that Rob is totally showing his age by having a Super Bowl.
I think that was meant for me. That was meant for me, actually.
For Aaron, sorry. Yeah. And I love Aaron's choice of Transformers. So there you go. Lots of people who've really enjoyed the show. Thank you so much indeed. Guys, it's been a pleasure, and hopefully let's see each other again in real life, IRL.
Oh, yeah, I hope so.
Let's get that happening real soon. Guys, thank you very much indeed for coming on.
Love you all.
Tony's convention on
July. That's right.
We'll take over the lobby at the Hilton, and we can have Captain Kirk and Spock there too.
Brilliant stuff.
All right, thanks, Leonard.
Guys, thank you very much indeed for coming on. I really appreciate it.
Peace.
Thank you.
Cheers.
Take care. Wow, excellent stuff indeed. We're going to continue the conversation well into the next couple of months about how the show is going to continue, how San Diego Comic-Con is going to bring as much as they possibly can. We kind of touched on a whole bunch of ways that they could possibly bring content to us, but it's just how much they're going to do. I'm really curious, and I'm certain that you are, and really excited, and we'll do what we can to cover it as much as we possibly can here on the live stream. Right, just a couple of things that I want to wrap things up on. Certainly when it comes to our upcoming guests, because we've had some fantastic guests in recent weeks, and we are going to continue to do that throughout the rest of the month and moving on into next month as well. What month is it, for God's sake? I'm losing my mind here. It's May. It's June next month. Absolutely. Our guests, we've got 2 on Wednesday, which I'm really looking forward to talking to. Donny Cates and Megan Hutchinson. They have been absolutely rocking their own live streams and what they've been getting up to, especially with what Donny has got planned for his books coming up. It's going to be interesting talking to him, especially with Diamond starting to put books out next week and the ramping back up of in-store comics. He's been generating stories. We're going to be talking to them. Really looking forward to it. David Irwin is going to be joining us on next week's show, talking to us. He's the publisher CCO of Heavy Metal, but he's going to be talking to us about Virus, which is a new imprint which Heavy Metal have got going on. He's got plenty of stories, I'm certain. Looking forward to talking to him. Wednesday, the 27th, is a show which we've added a new guest to. Really looking forward to this. Number one, I was looking forward to talking to Russ Burlingame from comicbook.com anyway. But then you've got Mike Avila, who's from Sci-Fi Wire. He's going to be coming on. The pair of them are going to be talking about something we touched on our show, which is the impact of pop culture and that backloading and the way that the industry has ground to a halt, how the industry is going to get back up to some kind of speed, and what we can expect down the line, not only in comics, films, television. These guys know their stuff, and looking forward to talking to Russ and Mike on Wednesday, the 27th. And then the last one of the month may seem a little less high profile than some of the guests that we've had on, but Robin Jones and Mark Jackson. We're talking a award-winning cartoonist here in the UK. Mark Jackson is also somebody who runs a convention. He runs MacPow. So we're going to be talking about the UK convention scene and also the independent publishing market and how independent comics creators have dealt with the pandemic over the course of the last 2 months. It's going to be a great show. Hopefully you can join us for those. Right, something that we are going to do now is basically follow or finish off a giveaway that we announced last week. That was for these. These are 2 prints that have been done by Rachel Smith. Once again, we have been pushing and pimping Rachel's work on this Hangout for the last month or so. Search for Quarantine Comics. That's Quarantine, COMIX. Ideally on Twitter or social on Facebook. She has just been one of the highlights of the whole situation. She has been honest. She's been emotional. She's been putting out these daily comics. And every week she's also done a full-page piece. One there of her garden and one there of the dark shadow, the kind of that voice, that animal that just kind of creeps around you every single day. You have the light one and the dark one. It's the one that determines your mood for the day. Sometimes it's a positive, even when it's the dark shadow, that one that kind of allows you to be a little bit more introspective. Then you have the light shadow that can sometimes make you a little bit too optimistic for the whole scenario. Maybe it's a little bit too much. These are the 2 prints that we're giving away. We basically announced this on Wednesday. Yes, may I just bring this one up, by the way. Thank you very much indeed for the comment from Andrew English. Great panel, better than Wednesday. Thanks for that. Appreciate it, because yes, we were going to be speaking to Bill Sienkiewicz, and that all kind of fell apart, unfortunately. Bill will be coming on the show. It's just when he can kind of get himself organized and find us a free slot to talk to us. But we launched this competition. Could you name your light or your dark shadow? That was what we basically asked. And as it happens, we have ourselves a winner. I'm going to just create a banner because I want to just put this up. This was a comment that was put up, and the winner of our giveaway for these 2 prints, we're going to get these mailed out to you, is Sir Lister of Smeg. Thank you so much indeed for your entry. White shadow would be Gail, for Gail Simone. And I think I know where that's come from, because Gail has been a positive light on social media. She's a constant shadow, and she's always one with a witty comment. She's one that's just been kind of there, and it's been great to have her kind of contribution to the whole thing. So Lister of Smeg, congratulations. You are the winner of these 2 prints. We're going to get in contact with Rachel. We'll get your details. I'll get a DM to you, If you, well, in fact, if you can drop me a line on Twitter, certainly we'll open up a conversation backwards and forwards. We'll get the address and we'll get that mailed out. Congratulations, Celestis Meg, for the White Shadow. Would be Gail for Gail Simone. Excellent stuff indeed. And there you go. That's our show. I hope you've enjoyed it. Thank you very much indeed for coming on. To all of our guests, to Rob, to Alyssa, to Aaron, and to Tony. Any other questions you want to put to them, any follow-up stuff that you want us to discuss, jump in on my social media, of course. Englishman SDCC on the Twitter, Facebook, all the nonsense. I have realized, of course, that I haven't made the Facebook feed public, which means I've missed all of the Facebook comments for today, which is annoying, but that's just me. Unfortunately, that was my mistake, and I'll make sure that I kind of redress that balance next time. Thanks to everybody for watching. Thanks for all of your comments. Joel the Geek is asking what time is Wednesday's show. The same as we do every week, Pinky. It is 10 a.m. Pacific, 1 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. GMT, and we are back on Wednesday, Donny Cates with Megan Hutchinson. That's going to be happening this week. Take care. Enjoy the rest of your week. I know that we've got a couple of comments as well. Andrew English saying that he has to go to work via a packed bus. Let's try and stay safe. Let's try and stay healthy. Let's get through this. Wash your hands. We'll see you on Wednesday, Donny and Megan, for another Talkin Con, a cup of tea with an Englishman in San Diego. Hit your notifications, hit subscribe, like this video, and spread and share the word, and let everyone know that we're here each and every Wednesday for Talkin Con. For myself, to you, we'll see you later. Bye-bye.